Hello, listeners. Hi, my name is Madhavi, and I'm so happy to have you on UppTalk. You have come to the right place if you want to learn about IT and do really cool things with your hands. We are not just another IT company when I say UppTalk. Think of us as your learning partner dedicated to helping you reach your full potential. We have top notch hands on courses to help you build your business, whether you are new to technology or want to move up in your current job. Let's look around this as our first step towards learning.
This is the behavior of connectors, what it does, and what difference it makes when we generally think about the EIBs. The task to create connector is create integration system. The task to create EIB is where we will be selecting inbound as well as outbound. In connectors, the task would be create integration system, and when we go into the task, we will be selecting what type of connector that we wanted to use for the integrations. Create integration system is a task. Here you will be selecting which type of connector that you wanted to use. You already use a financial connector or benefits connector or the worker connector or organization related connector. Those type of connectors you'll be choosing here. First we'll be naming the connector. We'll try to pull all active employees from this connector. We'll see how that can be, how this filter can be made in the connector. In the EIB, we used to filter a report with active status is equal to yes. Then if you run that, if you attach that to EIB, you'll be getting active employees. But here we'll see, we'll not be having any kind of report, but we'll see how we can actually configure those details. We'll see how we can actually use the connector for active employees. When we say active employees, employee is nothing but worker, right? Worker connector is already available in Workday, which is mostly used connector. When you wanted to send any demographic information of an employee through connector, when you have huge data that the EAB is not able to process, and during that time when you're choosing worker connector. And when you're sending your worker and their job information, their position, their compensation information, everything, if you wanted to send to internal system or external system, you will be choosing worker connector. Like that, mostly you'll be when you want it to other than the cloud connectors like benefits and all. When you wanted to talk specifically about core connector worker is mostly used to connector that you actually integrate your worker data from Workday to internal system or external system. We'll be choosing connector called worker. We'll be choosing connector called worker, which is mostly used to work. If you are aware of how to configure worker, you'll be able to know the configuration of organizations, the configuration of positions. There are multiple connectors related to organizations. If you wanted to report on the number of organizations that are there in Workday, there is a specific connector that only looks for supervisory organizations, non-supervisory organizations. Like how we are configuring core connector worker, right? The same kind of configurations you'll be seeing in other connectors also, but only the thing is data will be different. We have chosen core connector worker. The moment I click on, I'll be going to connector definition page where I'll be having some more information that you can choose. I told you right, there are some integration services. If you wanted to send employee personal information, you can select that particular integration service. and employee position related, you can select specific integration service contract, leave of absence compensation details. You have integration services that provides all the related information of an employee with a separate service. If you wanted to choose that, if you wanted to get all that information in your output, you can choose whatever integration service that works for you. Now, obviously, we wanted to select employee personal information, worker status, position details we wanted to have, and the contract details. If worker is a contractor, what is a contract? Start date, end date, kind of details, any leave information, compensation details, and any kind of identification. Like in US, we call it as SSL. In India, we call it as RDR. Any kind of identification details that we wanted to have the integration to be returned in the output file. You'll be selecting that. Now we have selected most of the required fields that we wanted to have. These are integration services. When you go into that particular fields, you know you'll be getting the related fields of that particular integration services. Now any connector, when you configure integration services and click on, you'll be getting an error. Any connector, be it benefits connector, be it co-connector, be it organization connector, position connector, any financials connector, any learning connector, the moment you select integration services and click on the first thing, you'll be getting an error. What it will be saying is you need to configure version for the required for launch option. You are running the connector, that's fine. But which version of your connector you wanted to choose, your connector will be having a kind of prerequisite version which you need to select. Now, in order to fix this error, go to Related Actions. Fabricated Actions Integration System Integration Attributes to write your appropriately sensor as pattern. None of this is Aralesio films. You can see version required for launch attribute. You need to go to this attribute any integration. Any integration will be having this one. Click on this, you will be getting the versions of your web service. This is a version of Workday Web Service version. Right now, we are currently a worker connector. In the background worker will be working with the web service version. You need to select that web service version. What version that you can select is the very last version. Anything that is at last, you can select that version. And if you are working in sandbox, if you are working on implementation, if you are working on production, you can select that version here. Now I am not selected because this is not actual tenant. I have just left as it is, but I have selected version. Even if you won't select environment also, that will be fine. The only thing is when you select environment, that will be restricted to that particular tenant. If I select implementation tenant, this configuration, whatever I have made, is restricted to only implementation tenant. Now, if I migrate this to production and if I won't select this one, you will be again getting this error because I only selected implementation. If you select production and if you migrate this to production, you will be not getting this error. If you won't select anything in any instance, you will not get this error. because we have not made this setup restricted to any environment. We have just left as it is, which will work for all the tenants. Now I have selected the last version of web service. Clicking on. Now I should not see that error that was populated. The error has gone now. Now we are set with the connectors. We have selected all the integration services. Now we wanted to select the fields that we wanted to have in the output file. Go to Related Actions. You will be seeing Configure Field Attributes. Earlier, we have selected Configure Integration Attributes. Went there, selected the last version, fixed the error. And again, now we are going to Field Attributes to select fields for every integration services that we have selected. Go there, Configure Field Attributes. Whatever integration services that we have selected, all we got here. Let's say now personal data. We have. If you want all the fields that are available in that particular integration services, you can select this box, which will get you all the fields. But we don't need all the fields. We can select only selected fields. We want it to have first name, last name. If there is any specific length restriction for any of the external system that you are sending the data, you can give that particular length also. Let's see. Let's see. Gender, birth rate, marital status, ethnicity. Is it all personal information, right? Personality, personality, address information, primary address, country, phone number, email address, email address, whatever personal information that we need to have, we have selected from the list of fields that are available in particular services. Worker status, which status of employee that you wanted to have, we will be selected here. Active status, hire date, first day of work, not if employee is terminated, select this. And then we will be selected. If employee is terminated, select this and select this. Selected required fields in active status. Position details. What position the employee is holding. Position title. Business title. Worker type. Pay rate, type of a position. Job profile information. Select this contract details. You don't need leave of absence. If employee has gone on leave, only start date, leave end date. Compensation data section. What compensation that we are giving, total annual base pay currency. Identification details, ID information. Whatever IDs that you will be providing, those details will be configured as ID, and if you wanted to pull that information, you can actually take this information. And qualification details. I don't think these are required. Basically, qualification is nothing but education details, and all of an employee will be actually configured, but we are not worried of this stuff. I'm clicking on. Now we have selected the most important information of a worker and we have configured. Now we have configured all the field attributes that we wanted to have. Now we are ready with the connector to run this. Oh, it is gone. Application system. All active. Now we have selected all the fields from the integration services. What is the next step? To launch integration. To launch integration connector has a kind of different prerequisite or a kind of requirement that when you are actually running a connector, you can see here configure field overrides option. You need to let your connector know which kind of employee group that you are running this connector for, which is a mandatory. You can see here eligibility criteria is a mandatory for connector. If you won't give this information, your connector will fail. What it is saying, this option is to determine whether a worker is eligible. Inclusion of the integration output. The field should return a Boolean value. What workers are intended to get into the output file. What kind of group of employees you wanted to have in the output, whether you wanted to have all workers, all active, all terminated, all only workers. You need to specify any of the Boolean value. Any other criteria that you wanted to have, you can actually add to that. If you wanted to have female active employees or male active employees or both female active employees and terminated female active employees like that. You can actually define Boolean values as how you wanted to have and specify in that particular field list. When we created calculated fields, we have created a calculated fields with true or false conditions, right? Such kind of true or false conditions can give here. Right now, I can give, since we are looking for active employees, I can give this active employees. Note that you are supposed to give only Boolean values here, which is Boolean value in the sense true or false conditions. You can give here, which is nothing but the calculated fields are delivered Boolean values. We have active status, Boolean value which is delivered provided by Workday. We have you can actually give this, which will only get for active employees. If you are not giving anything here, you will see the integration failure. Now I've selected active employees, but if you wanted to have few more conditions to this one, you can actually create a calculated fields with true or false conditions and add multiple criteria. If you wanted to have active employees whose hire rate is greater than this one. Like that, we have created multiple calculated fields, right? Like that, we can create a calculated field and add that calculated field here. Click. Now your integration is configured as how it needs to be before you run that connector. Anyone have any questions for? Any questions for? Anything not clear? What we have done till now, we have selected the connector. We selected integration services. And from each integration services, we have selected whatever fields that we wanted to have. And in order to run the connector, the mandatory criteria is we need to select field override Boolean value, which we have selected as an active status. This is as per your requirement. You can select anything. Since we already have active status delivered field, I've selected this one, but most of the organizations will be requiring typical requirements. If they are actually running the connector for only specific period and they wanted to have only active employees to that particular period, and inactive employees should be excluded, or employees who only also needs to be returned. All those kinds of things are there. You just need to create one calculated fields, which we have created in our calculated field system. Multiple criteria. Most of the organization will be having their own requirements. And when you get that requirement, you just need to take existing calculated fields that is already there, or you can create a new calculated fields with Boolean value, which is nothing but true or false condition, and add the criteria that you wanted to have. Mark Nations wanted to say that because connectors are everyday integrations mostly, they need to run every day because everyday employees will be hiring. Every day, employees' details will get changing and they'll be terminating. A lot of things that will be happening, right? And the behavior I said of connector is it will be returning all the changes by default. If employees getting promoted, if employees getting demoted, if employee compensation is getting changed, if employees getting high, terminated, or went on, leave all this information without adding any kind of filter criteria. Your connector will look for those changes and will pick the data in the output file if you are running your connector for changes and deltas. If it is running every week, every day, your connector has to look for all the changes happening and it will be returned. When you have such kind of requirements, probably some of the customers will be saying that we don't want you to have all the terminated workers that are there in the system. We will be using the termination date. When I'm from the day when integration is completed running and from the day when it is running again. In between this period, wherever there are terminations, try to pick that one. If that is a criteria, what you'll be doing, you'll be actually creating a calculated field in the same Boolean value. In the same Boolean value, you'll be creating a calculated fields and you'll be saying termination date equal to yesterday or terminated date equal to today. Kind of things, you know you'll be getting terminated. If integration is running today, it will be looking for terminated employees of yesterday. If you wanted to have terminated employees who want it to be in the file of today, you'll be selecting that criteria. All those are kind of selected configurations which you can select in the calculated fields that you want it to have. Now I've selected active status. We wanted to have only active employees that I've selected the deliver billion value. Clicking on. Now the connector setup is completely done. Whatever connector that we wanted to have, we've created all the connectors, all the configurations related to that connectors. Now we need to launch that connector. Launching the connector is an important. Here you'll be seeing a lot of date prompts which is required for connector. Every connector will be having these date prompts. And when someone is asking you questions on connectors in your interview, there will be one complete mandate question on the launch options. What are the launch parameters of connector? There will be one sure question in your interview related to when you're launching a connector. What are the launch parameters that you have in your connector? These are the launch parameters. As of entry date, automatically it will take to today's date. And effective date, it will take as of today's date. And from when you wanted to have your data to be picked, if you are giving 1st of January 2021, from that particular date to till this date, your connector will be looking for the data. I will be selecting. Today is December 19th. I will go back till August and I will try to pick the data from here. From August 1st to till this date, whatever changes that would have occurred, those details will get picked up. When someone asks you what are the launch parameters of connector, you should be saying as of entry moment, which will be today's date, effective date from when you want till when you wanted to have your data to be looked up, and log successful effective date from when you wanted to have your data in the output file you will be selected. These four are the launch parameter date parameters. Your question will be on this. What launch parameters that you will be having when you are running a NECA related to date. You should say as of entry moment effective date, log successful entry of moment, and log successful effective date. What is the specification of these launch parameters? As of entry date and effective date will be looking for whatever date that you are giving. Till that particular date data will be returned. Last successful as of entry moment, last successful effective date, you will be giving a date from when the data has to get picked up. Effective date, from this date to this date, your data will be returned and your connector will be looking your data in this particular date range. This is the specification of your launch parameters. And definitely there will be a question if someone is asking you on connectors, on launch parameters. And if you are not selecting anything and you click on now, your connector will be looking for only changes information during this period. Whatever changes that are occurred, that information your connector will be looking for. And if you do not want it to have changes, and if you want it to have all the full file complete information of an employee, you will be getting full file irrespective of the changes happening in this date range. All the data, in particular this date range, you will be getting. And if you wanted to have your connector to run only for specific group of employees, limit your run to only few employees. You will be selecting those employees here. that your connector will be looking for only those employees and you will be returning the data. It's just nothing but you filtering the data. The EIV will be doing this filtering reports and connector will be doing while you are launching the connector. Now I have selected a full file. If I don't want a full file, I can remove this that your connector will look for only change information. Now selecting the checkbox, running this. From August to till date, whatever data that exists in the Workday, the changes or I don't know, we have selected a full file or changes, I think. Based on that, it will be returning the data accordingly. Since it will be looking for all the workers and it changes, it might take little time, 2 minutes or 3 minutes time it might take. While this runs, anyone have any questions? Anyone have any questions on the configuration of connector and the how it has been configured and how it is running? Any questions anyone have? Anything was not clear grammatical contact that we have not configured. Here is delivery option. In EAB, we used to have pre-built delivery configurations. In connector, we need to configure the delivery step in order to send the data to external system. Once this is completed, I will show you how we can configure the delivery step. Now your connector has started processing and looking for the data that is there in Workday. We have selected a full file between this date range. Your connector will be looking for all the device in the system. While this runs, anyone have any questions you can ask on what we have discussed far? This is making sense. Creation of connector and configuring the connectors, running the connector. Are you able to understand? Are you able to understand or not? If you are not able to understand, ask me. Connectors is an important concept. And whatever the configurations I have shown you, the same kind of configuration you will be finding in all the connectors. Only the thing is, your data will be different. And as I said, when you have your connectors, depends upon the connector type. You need to know that. What kind of transformation that you need to write for connectors. Core connector workers. If your format of the data should be in a different way, you need to write an XLT. Basically, if you wanted to send all the worker related information regularly to any of the internal system or external system, and if it has to look for changes, only then the connector is the preferred type of integration that you can choose. You can also do that through EIBAN report. But you need to build a lot of calculated fields from that particular data source to look for change, information related to worker. But here we have no need of creating calculations. The default behavior of connector is look for the changes in the data range that you have given. But if you wanted to do the same in report, you need to go for a different data source, business process data source, and configure multiple calculated fields for each change. And then configure the date parameters as how we have selected. Now write start date, effective date, end date, and I think the same kind of setup you need to make in your report also. That you will be getting all the changes. But when connector is doing the job without any report, without any kind of specific criteria, the preferred option that you can choose is connector. Every connector setup, whatever we are saying, worker benefits, payroll organizations, financial connectors and recruiting related connectors, learning related connectors, every connector is of similar setup type. Only the thing is two things that you need to remember. One is a delivery step that you need to configure. The other thing is transformation step. If it is required, you need to configure the transformation. Other than that, everything is as similar as what we have done. Unless you are aware of which field that you need to select. We have selected integration services and we have selected all the required fields. And you need to know what fields that you need to select, what data that you wanted to have in the output file. You need to select that under particular integration service. Since we have selected a full file and in specific date range, it is looking for all the data that is available in Workday and returning the data. You can see here. Identifying eligibility for 71 to 82 workers. It is trying to pull the data of all the configurations, all the fields that we have configured right. For all those configurations, it is looking for this amount of data to be returned. For all 7122 workers, it is trying to pull compensation, whether the specification, position, active status, leave information, whatever we have configured, it is looking for all that information. It is trying to return the data. Process history. You will be seeing the percentage of the integration which is completed. Here we will be seeing the kind of percentage and the time that has been completed during this process and process info. You'll be seeing some of the technical details before you run that integration. Whatever you have used the launch parameters to run this, and this would be the endpoint of your integration. If you wanted to automate this process through any of the scheduled process, through APIs, through any custom integrations, can configure this URL there and child process. Whatever the configuration that you have made, you have not configured any delivery step. You have not configured any kind of transformation step, and that's the reason we are not getting this. If you have configured that, you will be getting those processing details here as well. When integration is completed, you will be seeing the status. Overall status is completed and an output file, default output file in a format that it has to return. You will be seeing that. Let me know if you have any questions. We are coming to end of the course, and if you are not asking questions and if you are not following, definitely you will be not able to manage after this course. If you are clarifying that and you know how the process is running, that's well and good. But if you are not understanding and if you are being silent, that will definitely a roadblock for you when you are doing hands on. Just raise a question if you are not clear, because we came to the end of the course and we will be completing the course in next couple of days. If you are not following anything, if you wanted to discuss any of the concept connectors, at least integrations, at least EIVs connectors, if you are not following, if you are not comfortable on any of the area, let me know. Because after this, you will be not having any kind of hands on activities or any kind of sessions where you will get a chance to clarify. It is returning a huge file, that's why it is taking a long time. I should have configured less period. Instead of going August, I should have configured either November or December 1st that we will be having. Limited data would have completed by now. In tomorrow's session, we will do one more accessibility. We have done a couple of sessions on accessibility, but output was not clear. We will try to do one more accessibility and make sure that you are having complete understanding on how accessibility is in and how you are seeing the data. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow, I think we should be able to complete whatever we have discussed on schedule. And if you don't have any other clarifications or any kind of questions or any kind of clarification that you wanted to discuss, I think we should be done then. If you have any kind of questions, if you wanted to discuss anything, there's a different case. But if you are good without any questions, once we have done the transformation tomorrow, I think day after tomorrow we can take one of the clarification session, and that can be your last. If you go to the parent event, you will be seeing the process of the completion of this integration. Now the processing has to come here. I don't know whether this parent is getting this or not. You can actually click on this also to refresh your integration when it is running. While this runs, probably I will take different thing. How to configure a delivery step for connector. If you wanted to send data to any external system, you need to configure a delivery step. For EAVs, there is a delivery option that you can configure. For connectors, you need to actually configure that one. For configure and delivery system, we go to related actions, business process, Don't select anything. Click on 8. Step A is actually initiation. Step B, your integration is firing. Step A is actually initiation. Step A will be giving delivery details. So, document delivery. This is nothing but file delivery. Click on. Step A is actually initiation. Step A, you will be getting an error. You will be getting an error. The error is if configured delivery steps. Where are your delivery configuration? That's asking you to go to the delivery system. Done, and you need to provide your external system details as how we used to have any Viva, right? The same kind of information. You will be having this. You can select any of the system that you wanted to integrate the data. Select that, run that, and file will be delivered based on this configuration. Now it is completed successfully. Overall status is now completed. When your integration is completed, you need to come to the parent event and find the output file. This is the audit file. This is audit file which shows what all the data that your connector has got picked up. Sometimes when you are writing an XSLT, if you are writing incorrect SLT, it will not be looking for the values right. You might be thinking that why does this value has not returned and what mistake it is there and all. You will be actually looking in the output file and you will be analyzing that one. When your audit file is there, you will be getting what data that is there in the system it has got returned and what data you have your integration output return. You will be selecting in the output file. You will be comparing both files and it will ensure that whatever audit file is consisting of as returned or not. If some of the information that audit file is consisting of and if you are not getting that in the output file, which means that your integration was not looking at that information and you need to look for adding that information. Now audit file will begin details that you have got in the integration output file. Full. This is the audit file 722, worker information, all the worker details you got in the audit file. For these worker details, you will be seeing the change information. Now go to the output file and go to the output file. You can see output docs mill because we have not given any kind of transformation. It has generated output filing mill. This is the format. This is the data based on the selection of your fields. Your data has got written. Whatever we've selected, data has got written based on the configuration that we've made. This is the default output format that you got from the connector. You can see all the 722 records that has got written in the output file. And as per the work account that you got here, all the fields that you have configured should be coming here. That is the configuration of connector, how it runs, how it actually returns the data, how it looks for the data. That's how you will be configuring the connector, and all the connectors will be returning data in the same format: audit, file output, file delivery, and everything will be working in a similar manner. All you need to know is the configuration of the setup. You're not writing any kind of expressions to configure, you're just configuring your connector setup, at least for Eve. You need to create reports. If there are anything, the calculations that you need to make. You need to make those calculations and describe your transformation and all. But here you don't have all those things. You need to select the integration services and all the readily available fields you can select here for each data of integration service. That is what Core Connector Worker configuration is, which you can actually know when you are trying to get some information on connector. Now, if anyone asks you, can you explain the process of setting up the connector you need to select? You need to tell right from the first step that we have done a select the connector template that you wanted to configure and select the integration services. And after selecting integration services, you'll be getting an error and you need to select that error. Select required for launch for the latest version of web service and submit that which will keep the error out. And then you'll be getting integration field attributes for each of the integration services that you have selected. Select all the fields of each integration service and then integration field overrides, where you need to select the eligibility criteria of the connector. And then when you are running the connector, will be asked for launch parameters and define those launch parameters. And you can select whether, if you wanted to have a full file or changes, you can select when you're launching the connectors and run the connector, which will be returning the output file. These are the steps of creating the connector, which you can explain when someone asks you about connector setup. And the same setup we'll be seeing for all the connectors. Only the thing is data will be different. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@therightuptalk.com.